2009 MVP race was one for the history books. It was between LeBron James, Deron Williams, and Chris Paul. Tim Duncan and Gilbert Arenas were just tag-alongs. They're old news by now. So you had the defending champion and MVP, and then the two guys that were in the contested Rookie of the Year race just a couple of years ago. Also Deron Williams, who was on a revenge tour for Game 7 of last year, and kinda Chris Paul as well. This Mavericks team hasn't gotten past the Grizzlies. So the Pacers and Mavs had the best record in the league. They had identical records, and LeBron James, his super team by the way, was 5 games behind the Dallas Mavericks. Didn't matter. His numbers were so good, 2K still gave him the MVP. However, we always put these to a vote in the chat, especially when it's this close. And incredible. LeBron James got first place, but in a plurality, not a majority. Not even close to a majority. And so we had to have a runoff. A runoff between Chris Paul and LeBron James, the best player on the best team, well, record-wise, versus the media chosen MVP, or 2K media chosen MVP, and Deron Williams voters, out of spite of having lost to LeBron James in the finals last year, voted with Chris Paul. Sim justice. In this universe, there would not be an argument that Paul was once robbed of MVP. Actually, it might be that he robbed LeBron James of MVP. So, headed into the 09 playoffs, there was a lot to be hashed out. And the West was just an absolute bloodbath. The Mavs winning around 60 games, they secured first seed, so they got the easy first round against the Phoenix Suns. The Nuggets and Wolves, the 4-5 matchup. The Nuggets clearly phasing out of their championship form, and KG, in his contract year, leading the Wolves to one of their best performances since he used to win MVP. Fool's gold still. Dwight Howard and the Utah Jazz playing the Kings, who just will not go away, and a Kobe and LeBron first round at the 2-7 matchup. In the Eastern Conference, Shaquille O'Neal had joined the Orlando Magic a long time ago and finally got them to the playoffs, although obviously he's old by this point. They got the matchup with Indy, New Jersey and Chicago once again. If you know New Jersey, you know how this turns out. Philly and New York, which was the ESPN2 series nobody gave a rat's ass about. And then Toronto and the Bobcats being a false 7 seed. They have a nearly identical roster to what they had in 2008 when they were a 2nd seed. For some reason they're 7th here, but they are a way better team than what the seeding would show. Dallas disposed of Phoenix quite easily. They've done nothing since drafting Elton Brand and Michael Redd. The Minnesota Timberwolves escaped the first round curse. They'd been playing well all season. They were finally not a 500 team. Made us think they could make some noise. And Vin Baker, he's just intent on staying with Denver until they win another championship. He absolutely cannot get over the fact that they sold 2005. He's never gonna leave. And one video after saying prime Dwight Howard would never go out in the first round, Pedro Stojakovic and this sparse roster defeat the Jazz in 6. The Kings just won't go away. It's been 10 years. They're here every year to fuck something up. And LA had Memphis down multiple times in this series. Kobe going super team hunting. The champions looked like they were about to fumble the bag. Maybe they were right to take LeBron's MVP, and of course they weren't. The Grizzlies outlasted. They made it to the 2nd round. Stern 2K almost had a heart attack. Love Kobe, love Peja. Neither one of them had Western Conference Finals teams. Neither one of these teams were cash cows, so a big sigh of relief there. In the Eastern Conference, the Pacers dropped both of their home games to the Magic and then hit them with the reverse sweep. Of course, momentum in home court means nothing in 2K. Also, thank God, the East is so sparse in terms of roster construction right now. For the Deron Williams storyline to die out that early, once again, Stern 2K was stressed. They figured it out. Of course, the Nets went out in the first round. They won game 1 against Chicago, and then Gilbert Arenas proceeded to drop like 40 on them every game. Yao in his contract year could have very well been his last game in New Jersey. Philly disposed of New York, and Toronto, Dwayne Wade and Tim Duncan, the second most disappointing duo behind Dirk and Yao. They lost to the Bobcats. They got dominated. Even though Wade started at PG this year, they really just aren't what we want them to be. Duncan's getting old. He doesn't have the same defensive prowess he once had down low. Also, he's in a contract year. And this Bobcats roster, it's hard to imagine the Bobcats and success. It just really doesn't go together. It's like pineapple on pizza, but they got it done. Once again, a false 7 seed. There was no reason for this to have happened in the first round anyways, but that's what made the Pacers win so crucial, because if Toronto and Indy had gone out in the first round, we would have had 1999 all over again. Stern 2K had the refs on speed dial. And so, after many scares, a very nice 2nd round ensued. KG trying to break his curse against the best team in the conference. The Grizzlies once again matched up with the Kings. This had to have been about their 4th playoff matchup. And remember, these were LeBron's Celtics. And despite being champions, the Grizzlies had never actually defeated the Kings. The Kings just kind of aged out. So this was still a demon they had to conquer. And on the Eastern side, battle of the point guards, former champion Gilbert Arenas going against trying to be champion Deron Williams, and another ESPN2 series. Just based off the logos alone, the Sixers and Bobcats, just not a single game, man. Not a single game. The Wolves actually took game 1 from Dallas, but reality is often disappointing. As hopeful as people had become for a Kevin Garnett, Dirk Nowitzki 2011 type run, it wouldn't happen. The Mavs took them out in 6. Entertaining series though, and the Kings did not even stand a chance. They got 1 game, and Memphis finally overcame them. Narrative wasteland though. No Steve Francis, not really a competitive roster. People are gonna say the Grizzlies couldn't actually win until the Kings got old. Like they had Smush Parker running PG. It was kind of brutal. So Memphis back in the conference finals, and a rematch with Dallas, this time being the 2 best teams in the conference, not in the 2nd round, for a chance to go to the NBA finals. The 2 MVPs, the potential MVP robbery. Stern 2K, pleased meter on 10. And reality also disappointing for Chicago. Despite having won the 2007 NBA championship, the rosters, at least for this year, have kind of progressed to a point where Gilbert Arenas and a bunch of mid-tier players just can't get it done. Also should have mentioned, Indiana did trade Antonio McDyess for Carlos Boozer, a big finesse earlier in the season. So they paired Deron Williams with Boozer, along with everything else his team already had. So borderline super team space, although I just say really good. Amazing GM work over there by Larry Bird. And thankfully, the Bobcats disposed of the Luis Scola-led Philadelphia 76ers team. Every season we get closer to having to banish this team. So with the conference finals set, we were 4 games away on each side of the bracket from the first rematch of the entire sim. We've never had 2 NBA finals teams make it back the very next year to hash out the differences. It hadn't happened yet. It's happened in gap years, but not back to back. And while any combination of a finals involving Deron Williams here would have worked, the Mavs didn't even get close. The MVP swept. LeBron had something to prove here, man. Possibly should have been repeat MVP. The real media disagreed, and his squad swept the first seeded Dallas Mavericks. This is starting to become like that Boston and Philly rivalry where, yeah, sure, it's a rivalry, but Grizzlies are an easy 2-0 right now. Mavs have only won 1 game against them in the playoffs. So Memphis punches their ticket for a chance to repeat, and Indiana, they got so close to dropping this. Stern 2K was on edge the entire time. Charlotte, after going down 0-2, they won 3 straight. Had us thinking the fucking Bobcats were about to ruin the Deron Williams redemption story, the redemption arc. Kyle Lowry, Jamal Crawford, Sean Marion, this is a cool team, they're good, but nobody wanted to see Bobcats Grizzlies, I promise. And the sim gods blessed us. Indiana barely hung on in game 6. They finished the job in game 7, and for the first time in sim history, a repeat final series. This went to 7 games in 2008. Deron Williams fouled out game 7. He came back and nearly won MVP. Well, not nearly, but he had a shot at it and led this team all the way back to the finals when they could have very well have gone out in the first round. They didn't seem to have anything for Shaq. We put it to a vote, and the Grizzlies were the heavy favorites. They got something like 71% of the vote. After last year, nobody believes this Grizzlies super team can lose if they're there. But it doesn't matter what the people think. Deron Williams, he's not hacking this time. The only thing he's hacked is the code to success. Pacers in 6. And truly unbelievable to see this Grizzlies team fall apart this way, to be so stacked, to be the first team with a chance to repeat, and to be that heavy favorited. But it turns out that Carlos Boozer trade, it paid dividends. Not sure if they would have won this with Antonio McDyess. He was aging a bit. Boozer had 30 and 18 in a closeout game and helps lead the Pacers to the 09 NBA title. And so in this sim, the Boozer and D-Will duo received justice. And the redemption arc for Deron Williams comes full circle. It's complete. Loses Rookie of the Year to Chris Paul, plays all Game 7s 1 year, and the only Game 7 he loses is in the NBA Finals. He performed well before fouling out, by the way. Comes in 2nd in 2K Media MVP voting, 3rd in Chat Media, and then goes on to become the last MVP candidate standing. This Pacer team was truly a thing of 2K beauty. They passed on Chris Bosh in the 2003 NBA draft. They drafted Leandro Barbosa. He's still on this team. Had they have gotten Bosh, I'm not sure this team would have ever been as good, because they were able to build for a few years and then finesse Deron Williams in a draft when they already had a great team. I don't think it would have turned out the same. In the offseason, we run into a couple of Hall of Fame retirements. Penny Hardaway's done. He calls it a career. And this was actually somewhat emotional, man. He legitimately carried the sim when we first started, when the East was kind of trash. With MJ not performing, Penny really took off, man. He was fun to watch. He won an MVP. He won 2 championships, had the first 3-1 comeback in finals history, and one of those championships was with one of the worst rosters in sim finals history. He really carried the Magic for a long time, never left, and simply put, in the early years of this sim, he was the original cash cow, the first cash cow, the first Avenger. Penny Hardaway, the first Avenger. So honorable discharge from the league. He's done. And so is Grant Hill. And unfortunately, can't say the same for him, man. He also won an MVP. Another original cash cow, however. He stayed his whole career with Detroit. They brought him Jason Kidd and Latrell Sprewell. They disappointed every single year. He never left even when he had the chance. And so while he too was fun to watch at the beginning, injury or no injury, success was just not in his career. And he was definitely the Robin in this Hall of Fame class. The draft lottery. New Orleans is cheating. They had a team that looked like a playoff roster this year. Derrick Rose and KD. And they tanked again. Trust the process. I am about to Sam Hinkie this squad. They were bad enough for a 2nd selection in the 2009 NBA draft. They can get a 3rd star here. There's no way this team should have been bad enough to be all the way down there. The Clippers picked up the 3rd pick via a trade with the Rockets. It was top 3 protected, and so could have easily wound up with a situation where Westbrook and Pau Gasol got a 3rd star. Instead, LA once again gets the pick after fumbling Chris Bosh years earlier, and the Bucks with the 1st overall pick. They've done absolutely nothing in this sim at any point, so it's a damn shame James Harden got picked up there. He goes first. Would have loved to have seen him be the 3rd star with the Hornets, but no, in this universe, it looks like Steph Curry is going to play the role of James Harden. Harden started off as a 6-man between KD and another star. Curry is not going to start off 6-man, but he's probably going to be taking the least amount of shots, and this was very surprising. It almost felt a bit bit glitchy that the Hornets would have Derrick Rose and take Steph Curry, but I guess they believe that was the best talent available. They know the future, and so if they can make a Steph Curry and Derrick Rose backcourt work somehow, they will have a super duper big three: KD, Curry, and D Rose. I don't know how this is gonna work, but it was their choice. The chat wanted Stern 2K to veto this. I even thought it probably would have made better sense for them to have selected Blake Griffin, but hey, that's the beautiful thing about these teams in Sims. We were wrong before. We thought the Grizzlies were just gonna win every single championship. That did not happen. Nobody knows how this is gonna work out, but I'm excited to see. And so check this shit out. The Kings refuse to leave this sim alone. No matter who's on their roster, they're always in the playoffs messing something up. And when it looks like they're finally done, Smush Parker's running the point. They trade a next year top 3 protected first round pick and Mike Miller for this year's 4th overall pick. They have paired Blake Griffin with Peja Stojakovic. Incredible. Peja also does re-sign with the Kings. He could have left. And Sacramento, I think they may have missed the playoffs like one time this whole sim. And then after that, they rarely do worse than the second round. Sacramento is just 2K's darling for some reason. And so this draft was actually really deep. It wound up being the first that we've ever sat through all 60 picks. Plenty of role players, very few generics until like the last 10 picks. Good pickups for a lot of teams. Hashim the Beat even got drafted. Don't think he's ever actually gonna play though. Toronto was really desperate for a center after going out in the first round. And then there was free agency. Kobe Bryant has got no justice in this sim. He and Shaquille O'Neal made 2 of the first finals. Of course, Kobe was very young. This is back in the Froby days. They lost twice. Never had any success. Shaq has been trashed the entire sim, no matter what we've tried. He actually bounced around. He went to Houston with Gasol, got to a conference finals, and then went back home to Orlando. Went to go right some wrongs. And in 2009 free agency, after years of the Lakers bringing Kobe mid-tier talent, he left. He couldn't stand for it any longer. He joins Shaquille O'Neal in Orlando. Kobe and Shaq, the last dance. And the thing about Orlando is they're pretty decent, and Kobe Bryant has been making the finals in the Western Conference, really like a 6th and 5th seed most years, with a worse roster than he has now. He's going to be playing with Rodney Stuckey, who has actually been decent so far since being drafted. He is fulfilling his potential in this sim. He'll be at the 2. David Lee is going to be there for the Magic. There's a team option glitch here, so he doesn't show, but he was just recently drafted there, so that'll be the 4, and an old Shaquille O'Neal will be the 5. They'll be fun at the least. Probably a couple of trades away from actually contending. It's better than what he had with the Lakers, and it's a fun story, being that these two have real life history and sim history, and also being that Hedo Turkoglu collected his jewelry and went and got the bag. He left Indiana. Stern 2K senses were tingling. Was thinking about a possible veto, but San Antonio is actually building a decent team here. It would not be right to deprive them of this. And also in real life, Hedo Turkoglu made the finals with the Magic and left for a bag that very same summer, so it's not impossible to think that this couldn't happen. And so with the East just a bit weaker, and Kobe being as great as he's been, a Magic run is not impossible. But knowing 2K, they could easily not make the playoffs as well. I don't know. Anyways, hashtag thank you Penny. The Legend Edition of 2K10 will run you $100. It'll come with a special locker to hold all these games you claim to hate but then got nostalgic about years later, and Lil Penny, which is really just a bobblehead. He had a legendary career, didn't get the farewell tour, and so he's being honored as a cover athlete alongside Deron Williams, the past Eastern Conference dominant point guard and the present Eastern Conference dominant point guard. It's poetic. This isn't no way over for Boston yet. We have a long time to go in this sim, and I see 1, 2, 3, 4. I see 4.5 good chances. If you combine Tariq Evans and DeMar DeRozan into one, that's 5. So you got 4 to 5 great chances here for Boston next draft. The sim. When you're gonna draft, when you say your team is gonna draft Blake Griffin and they draft Taylor Griffin, I'm fucking dead. They did that just to be funny. I'm done. That's Blake Griffin's brother.